Hillary Clinton is back, speaking some more truth about the danger that Donald Trump poses to America and our democracy, as she does so well. So she was doing a Morning Joe interview this morning on MSNBC, and they were talking about a variety of topics, mostly focused on the 2024 presidential election and all the news surrounding that. But I just have two clips to show you from this interview of Hillary Clinton talking about, one, Donald Trump himself, the danger he poses, and the things he has said to indicate that he wants to be a dictator. And then the second one is her talking to disillusioned voters, people who are like, you know what, I don't really like Biden or Trump. I might go third party, or they're in the middle, they're undecided. And I think both of her messages here were just spot on and just really reflect her intelligence and her understanding of American politics. So we're going to look at both of those clips, talk about them a little bit. And yeah, I'm so excited when Hillary Clinton is making her voice heard. So here's that first clip of Secretary Clinton just going in on Donald Trump.
Demagogue, unfortunately supported by members of his political party, other enablers, people who care more about a future tax cut than the sanctity of the Constitution, are falling in line behind him. They are trying to excuse some of the most outrageous things that you just recited. And I don't think the press has done enough to basically say, okay, the circus is here. You can watch the circus, but let's tell you what that means. Let's talk to people who have a real understanding of how dictatorships evolve. Let's look at the people that he admires and what they've already done. You know, back in 2016, we didn't have interviews with him. We didn't have a track record of 4 years in office. You know, there was a lot of speculation. And, you know, I understood that people wouldn't take what I said necessarily as gospel about what I thought could happen. I get that. But now we know. We've seen him and we've heard him. And so we need to do a better job of making it absolutely clear that someone who says these things, you know, maybe he wouldn't jail all of his political opponents. One is one too many. Maybe he wouldn't try to force out of business the, you know, members of the press who didn't agree with him. One is one too many. We go down the line. And maybe this would be our last election, because someone who will not accept the validity of an election is someone who doesn't believe in elections. He believes in his own power, his own right to power, and his demand that he be installed regardless of whether he gets the votes or not.
Yeah, just such amazing and very, very important points made by Secretary Clinton there. Look, the media, first and foremost, has not done enough. They just haven't, unfortunately. And it hurts me to say that, because I love some of these journalists and these media outlets, and I read them often, I watch them often. But so far, not many of them have stepped up to the task of covering Donald Trump, covering him in the way that he should be covered, highlighting these incredibly concerning quotes. The fact that he's in trial right now on 34 felony charges. The fact that he's trying to push back his other trials. That he's a proven sexual abuser, proven fraudster. That needs to be known. And when you ask your average American out there, many of them don't know what the charges are against Donald Trump, or why he's in trial right now, or what's central to his campaign. They don't know his, rhetoric on immigrants, his record as president. People seem to forget. It's the media's job to remind the folks, remind the people about what's at stake, not in a biased way necessarily, but in an honest way. And what's honest is that Donald Trump has said all of these terrible things. He mismanaged a pandemic. He's in criminal court, and that's the truth. And highlighting that is not bias. It's just honest. But the media has so far not done that. And I'm hopeful that as we get closer to 2024 and the election is more on people's minds, that'll change and that'll shift. But right now, I'm not seeing it. And I think many of you feel that frustration as well. But I just loved her point about how people kind of downplay Donald Trump's danger. They say, well, maybe he won't jail all of his political opponents. Maybe he won't execute all of the people he doesn't like. Maybe if he's granted immunity from the Supreme Court, which God forbid, maybe if he's elected, he won't kill anybody on the street. He'll just kill some of them. That's insane. That is already too many. If you're just jailing some journalists, not all, and you're executing some political opponents, not all, that's way too many. One is way too many. The fact that we even have to have this conversation shows you that there's a different standard for Trump and Joe Biden. Trump is talking about executing his political opponents and not accepting the results of another election. Joe Biden, God forbid, is talking about investing in infrastructure and lowering healthcare costs. And apparently, in some people's minds, it goes from this to this. Those are the same people. They're on the same they're on the same wavelength. They're comparable. God, I mean, it is crazy. I just love that point because it's true. One is way too many of any of these different things we're talking about, whether it be jailing journalists, stealing how many elections you try to steal and overturn illegally, how many indictments you have. One is way too many. And yet some people in America thus far make an exception for Donald Trump. They say, oh, it's not that bad. No exceptions for this man. None. He's not worthy and deserving of that exception, of that like justifying why someone might support him. There is no justification. Newsflash, there is none. So it is crazy, and she makes a really good argument there as to why Joe Biden should be reelected, as to why Donald Trump shouldn't even be a thought in anybody's mind as to who they might choose to vote for in 2024. But the second and final clip I want to show you is another big topic in American politics right now. Disillusioned voters, people who don't really like either candidate, which, as we just talked about, is crazy, but of course, still an important group of people to talk to and hopefully get on our side of the aisle. So here's that clip of Secretary Clinton talking to these voters.
An obligation as a citizen to try to figure out, waking up the morning after the election, do I want to throw my vote away? Do I want to not vote and let somebody who doesn't agree with me or care about me essentially fill that vacuum that I left? Or do I want to feel like, okay, maybe I'm not ecstatic about the outcome, but I'm safe. I'm not going to have to worry about what might happen to the economy because we've got somebody who took us out of COVID, has tackled inflation, the best economy in the world right now. Let's not mess with that. There's just so much. And, you know, I think it's also important to say that, as Hakeem Jeffries, who is the majority leader in the House, said the other day, and I think he's done an amazing statesman-like job, he said, you know, if you can overturn Roe v. Wade, you can overturn Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and a lot of things that many, many Americans not only take for granted, but really rely on. So I think the future is at stake, not just in a big abstract way, but in everybody's life and family.
Yeah, another great set of arguments by Hillary Clinton. Just really well put. And there's two things in that clip that really stuck out to me. And the first was like, yeah, you get to wake up after Election Day if President Biden wins, and you don't have to worry about your reproductive rights. You don't have to worry about your democracy. You don't have to worry about a second January 6th. You don't have to worry about the environment not being protected. You don't have to worry about, you know, a dictator being in office making whatever decision he wants abroad for all of these different complex issues. You don't have to worry about that. That is a comfort that is worth voting for. It really is. I mean, I remember when I was 16, 17 years old during the Trump presidency, and even me as a teenager would wake up like, oh, what did he tweet today? What leader did he insult? What war did he just plunge us into? Right? That's a comfort that I certainly appreciate. I think a lot of people would too. And as Hillary Clinton said, you don't have to love Joe Biden. You don't have to be like satisfied with the outcome. You don't have to be super happy and jumping up and down in the streets and celebrating. But it's worthwhile. It is a clear distinction between the two candidates. Whereas Joe Biden, there's calm and peace and understanding that even if you don't fully agree with President Biden, there is stability and competence in the Oval Office. With Donald Trump, complete opposite. The antithesis of competence. He's the opposite of that. He's the opposite of calm. Opposite of cool, calm, and collected. He's not that guy. Joe Biden is. He really, really is. And look, and the final thing I want to say, and the other second thing that stuck out to me from Hillary Clinton's clip here, is everything else can fall. You know, Roe v. Wade fell because of Donald Trump, because he appointed these 3 Supreme Court justices who did his bidding. And they're currently still doing his bidding. But that fell. So everything else is on the table. Nothing else is protected, quote unquote, and can't be destroyed or undone. right? If Roe v. Wade can fall, everything else can fall. Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, food stamps, democracy, the list goes on of the different types of things that Republicans want to target and take away. So it's something to think about. Really something to think about and something to consider at the ballot box this November. But anyway, I don't have to tell you. I know you're going to go out there and make your voice heard in the best way possible. So I'll wrap up the video there. I really appreciate you watching. I'm still on the road, another traveling video. But, you know, as I mentioned, something really exciting is coming. I'm really happy to show you guys and looking forward to that. But I'll sign off for now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. Also, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about all of this, and share the video with anybody you think needs to see it. And as always, I appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.